There was a time, not so very long ago, when the world of mobile communication was dominated by a single, powerful name, Nokia. It was a name that resonated across continents, a symbol of reliability and innovation in the palm of your hand. For millions of people, their very first mobile phone was a Nokia. It was the device that connected families, powered businesses, and captured fleeting moments. The iconic Nokia tune, a simple yet memorable melody, was the unofficial soundtrack of the late 1990s and early 2000s, an audible signal that someone, somewhere, was reaching out. This was not just a company, it was a cultural phenomenon, a titan that seemed utterly invincible in its domain. The sheer scale of Nokia's dominance is difficult to overstate. In its heyday, it commanded a global market share that competitors could only dream of, often exceeding 40%. Maps of the world from that era, shaded to show market leadership, would have been almost entirely colored in Nokia's favor, from the bustling cities of Europe to the emerging markets of Asia and Africa. With vast research and development budgets, sprawling production facilities and a marketing machine, its brand was recognized everywhere. This was the zenith of the feature phone era. Calls, texts, even Snake, tough devices, batteries that lasted for days, refreshingly straightforward to use. The story of Nokia does not begin with microchips and cellular signals, but with the natural resources of its native Finland. The company's origins reach back to 1865, a time of wood pulp and flowing rivers. Frederick Idestam established a pulp mill on the Tomerkoski Rapids. A few years later, a second mill opened near the town of Nokia on the Nokianverta River. That town would give the future corporation its name. The business was far removed from electronics, it focused on producing paper. Over decades, Nokia branched into new industries. Through mergers, it absorbed other Finnish businesses. In the early 20th century, the Finnish Rubber Works joined, making galoshes, making tires. Later, the Finnish Cable Works joined, producing cables for the telegraph and for emerging electrical networks. For much of its history, Nokia made rubber boots, car tires, television sets, and industrial machinery. The pivot to technology began in the latter half of the 20th century. In the 1960s, the cable division set up a small electronics unit, an acorn that would grow, focused on data processing and telecommunications equipment. It explored digital switches and radio transmission. By the 1980s, Nokia was positioned for mobile telephony. In 1984, it released the Mobira Talkman. In 1987, it released the Mobira Cityman. Bulky and expensive then, revolutionary for their time. Nokia divested other businesses, the paper division, the tire division, and the consumer electronics division, and focused on telecommunications. That decision set the stage for global leadership. The 1990s were the decade where Nokia transformed from a diversified Finnish conglomerate into a focused, world-beating mobile phone company. The decision to concentrate solely on telecommunications proved to be a masterstroke. The company embraced the new GSM digital standard, which was becoming the dominant technology across Europe and beyond. This allowed for smaller, more efficient, and more secure mobile phones than the analog systems they replaced. Nokia's engineers demonstrated an extraordinary talent for combining cutting-edge technology, user-friendly design, and robust, reliable hardware, a formula that proved immensely successful worldwide. This era saw the release of a series of iconic phones that cemented Nokia's reputation for quality and innovation. Nokia 1011 in 1992, the sleek Nokia 2110 were massive hits. Mobile phones were becoming personal items, and Nokia introduced interchangeable covers so users could customize their devices. This focus on personalization, combined with legendary durability and an intuitive user interface, made Nokia phones incredibly desirable. The company wasn't just selling a tool, it was selling a lifestyle accessory. By the late 1990s, Nokia had officially become the world's largest mobile phone manufacturer, a title it would hold for more than a decade. The Nokia 3210 in 1999, with its internal antenna and preloaded game Snake, was a watershed moment, selling over 160 million units. It was followed by the even more legendary Nokia 3310, so famously durable it has since become an internet meme. Nokia created devices for every price point and every region: Europe, Asia, Africa, Latin America, giving it unparalleled global reach. The numbers were staggering. Year after year, sales climbed, profits soared, market share expanded. At its peak, Nokia represented a significant share of Finland's GDP and exports. Its global supply chain produced and distributed hundreds of millions of handsets annually. For a generation, the word phone and the word Nokia were practically interchangeable. The company stood at the summit of the mobile world, and seemingly unshakable colossus. Then, seemingly overnight, everything changed. Just as Nokia's dominance seemed absolute and permanent, a new kind of device emerged from an unexpected quarter. On January 9, 2007, Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone on stage. It dispensed with physical keyboards and small screens. Instead, it had a large, vibrant touchscreen that responded to fingers, a revolutionary multi-touch interface. Jobs framed the iPhone as three devices in one: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, a breakthrough internet communications device. The iPhone rethought what a mobile phone could be. iOS was built for touch with a grid of colorful icons. In 2008, Apple launched the App Store, a centralized marketplace that unleashed a tidal wave of creativity. Apps turned phones into pocket computers, navigating with GPS, playing sophisticated games, managing social networks. While Apple built a controlled premium ecosystem, Google was developing Android, open source and free for any hardware maker. HTC, Samsung, Motorola, LG began releasing Android phones at different price points. The smartphone war now had two powerful fronts. Nokia suddenly found itself on the defensive. Its smartphones ran Symbian and looked clunky and outdated. Built for keypads and small screens, adapting it to a touch-first, app-centric world was very difficult. Nokia's hardware remained strong, but its software experience lagged. Customers drifted to slick software, vast app libraries, large responsive touchscreens. The revolution had begun, and Nokia was caught unprepared. In the face of the existential threat posed by the iPhone and Android, Nokia's response was hampered by a series of critical mistakes. The first and most significant was a profound slowness to recognize and adapt. Leadership clung to a hardware-centric world and underestimated software and the user experience. They'd experimented with touchscreens, but their efforts were tentative. They poured resources into dozens of feature phones with physical keypads and assumed market strength would protect them. This institutional inertia was fatal. The second major error was a confused software strategy. Symbian was powerful once but built on an aging architecture, and developing for it was notoriously difficult. Apple, Google, Nokia tried to hedge, MeeGo with Intel while modernizing Symbian. Neither platform got enough resources. By the late 2000s, Nokia was a huge bureaucracy. Divisions competed instead of cooperating. Decision-making was slow and political. Fear of cannibalizing profitable feature phones bred risk aversion. These missteps compounded into decline. Show timeline graphic 2007-2011. Leadership dismissed the iPhone, underestimated Android's appeal. Consumers voted with their wallets. Delay in a competitive touchscreen phone and app ecosystem gave rivals a head start. By the time the N9 arrived in 2011, it was praised for design and software, but it was too little, too late. The market had moved on and Nokia's window had closed. Facing a catastrophic decline in market share with its own software platforms failing to gain traction, Nokia made a momentous and desperate decision. In February 2011, Stephen Elop, a former Microsoft exec, announced a strategic partnership with Microsoft. Photo: Elop and Ballmer shaking hands on stage with Nokia and Microsoft logos. Nokia would abandon Symbian, MeeGo, and adopt Microsoft's Windows Phone as its exclusive platform. Elop described Nokia as standing on a burning platform. A radical leap was needed. On paper, the rationale seemed plausible. Pair the world's largest phone maker with the world's largest software company to build a third ecosystem to challenge Apple's iOS and Google's Android. The partnership produced the Nokia Lumia line, striking industrial design, vibrant colors, excellent camera technology. Windows Phone offered a unique Metro interface with live tiles. Despite great hardware and novel software, the alliance couldn't reverse Nokia's fortunes. The biggest hurdle: the app gap. Developers saw small market share and avoided the platform. Users saw few apps and avoided the phones. Ultimately, Microsoft bought Nokia's devices and services in Sept 2013 for $7.2 billion. Microsoft's plan: control hardware and software integration like Apple. The acquisition failed to fix the problems. Lumia sales stayed sluggish. Windows Phone never reached critical mass. Cultural clashes and misalignments followed. Microsoft wrote down almost the entire value, laid off thousands, and effectively exited consumer phones. While the world watched the dramatic collapse of its mobile phone empire, the story of Nokia was far from over. The company that Microsoft acquired was only one part: the Devices and Services division. The original Finnish parent company remained independent, having sold its most famous but most troubled asset. Stripped of its phone-making arm, Nokia reinvented itself again, much as it had done a century earlier when it pivoted away from rubber and cables. It returned to its deeper roots in telecommunications infrastructure, the less glamorous but fundamentally important business of building the networks that power modern communication. Today, Nokia is a global powerhouse in network technology. It designs, manufactures and services the complex hardware and software that form the backbone of mobile and internet networks around the world. Its main competitors are not Apple and Samsung but infrastructure giants like Ericsson and Huawei. Nokia provides cellular base stations, core network switching, and optical transport systems for carriers and ISPs. It is a business-to-business operation, largely invisible to end consumers but essential to their digital lives. The new Nokia grew through strategic acquisitions. A key move was buying Alcatel-Lucent in 2015, significantly expanding its portfolio and market presence, particularly in North America. Now a leading player in 5G, it enables faster speeds and new capabilities, from self-driving cars to the Internet of Things. When dissecting the fall of Nokia's phone business, it is tempting to look for a single, simple cause, yet the reality is more complex. Nokia did not fail because it ran out of resources or money. The company remained immensely profitable, billions in cash reserves, state-of-the-art research facilities, one of the most recognized brands, a world-class supply chain, a global distribution network. The problem was not financial muscle or engineering talent. The true failure was one of vision and agility. Leadership built an empire on hardware excellence and manufacturing scale, but they couldn't grasp the paradigm shift. They saw the iPhone not as a computing platform, but an expensive, fragile phone with poor battery life. They thought it would be a niche product. They viewed the world through a hardware-centric lens, while the battleground moved to software, user experience, and ecosystems of services and applications. They were fighting the last war. Strategic foresight was lacking, compounded by a complex, layered bureaucracy, a ship labeled Nokia's bureaucracy, unable to turn before the iceberg labeled the smartphone revolution. Internal divisions competed for resources. Fear of disrupting the feature phone business created resistance. Apple and Google made bold, fast decisions as Nokia debated and planned, while the market sped past. The story of Nokia's rise and fall serves as a powerful and enduring lesson. For more than a decade, it defined an entire category of technology, putting a mobile phone in the hands of hundreds of millions and connecting the world. Nokia's phones were symbols of durability, simplicity, and practical elegance. The brand was built on trust, and for a long time, that trust was well earned. But when the smartphone arrived, underestimating software, a slow internal structure, and a fateful platform bet triggered a breathtaking descent. Yet Nokia did not vanish. It adapted, transformed, and survived, refocusing on networks to become a key player in the next generation of connectivity. Success is not a destination. It is a temporary condition that requires constant vigilance, a willingness to question assumptions, and the courage to disrupt oneself. Nokia did not lose because it lacked money or talent. It lost because it was too slow to change its mind. Its legacy is beloved devices that change the world, and a reminder that even the greatest of giants can fall.